Hello, welcome to Mathematics with Simon. I'm Simon. Today we're going to look at the small angle formulae as part of the A-level mathematics syllabus. So what are the small angle formulae? So the first one is that sine x is approximately equal to x when x is small, which means close to 0. And the closer x gets to 0, the better the approximation gets. And cos x is approximately equal to 1 minus x squared over 2. X needs to be small, and x also needs to be measured in radians, not degrees or any other units. So how do we make sense of this? So we start with a kind of geometric view. So we've got a right-angled triangle here and a circle. And the point is, by the definition of sine x equals the opposite over the hypotenuse. But there's some other maths we can do as well. So we can say the length of this arc. So this arc here, the length of this arc is firstly 2 pi a, which is just the circumference of the circle, times by x over 2 pi, which is the proportion of the circumference of the circle that's in the arc. Because, of course, there are 2 pi radians in a full circle. So it's x over 2 pi times 2 pi a. Magically, the 2 pi's cancel, and we get a times x, or x times a, ax. So that is very clever. Now, in the situation where the angle is small, when the angle is small, then ax is about the same as hx. So here, when the angle was big, the hypotenuse is very different to a. But here, when x is small, hypotenuse and a are very similar to each other. So here, as before, sine x is opposite over hypotenuse. But the opposite is very close to the arc, which we worked out before. The arc of the circle. So, because look how they're very similar. So it's L over H. Sine x is L over H. And then L, as we showed before, L is AX. But AX is almost the same as HX. So we can say that L is hx, so sine x equals hx over h, sine x equals x. It approximately is close to x, similar to x. We can also use trig Pythagoras and the Binomial Theorem to understand the formula for cos x. So sine squared plus cos squared is 1. Cos squared x equals 1 minus sine squared. Cos x equals the square root of 1 minus sine squared x. So when x is small, cos x is approximately root 1 minus x squared, 1 minus x squared to the power half. And then we can expand that out using the binomial theorem. So for small x, cos x equals 1 minus half x squared plus a half times 3 over 2 times a half x to the 4 minus a half, 3 over 2, 5 over 2, 1 over 3 factorial x to the 6. Don't worry too much about this, but this is the this is using the binomial theorem, which we have a different video to explain. And when x is really, really small, these big powers like x to the 4th, x to the 6th, x to the 8th, they all become very tiny. Because, for instance, let's say that x was 1 over 10. Then x squared is 100th, which is small. But x to the 4 is 1 over 10,000. X to the 6 is 1 over 1,000,000. So they become tiny very quickly. So we can neglect all the small terms. Well, we are going to neglect all the small terms. And we're going to say that cos x is approximately 1 minus half x squared. And we're neglecting the bigger powers. Another way of thinking about all of this is to think from infinite series. It's kind of similar to this, but it's not identical. There are infinite series for sine x and cos x. Again, don't worry if you haven't learned this. But these series go on and on. In kind of powers of x. And the point is, again, if x is very small, then these, the cube, the 5th, the 7th, the bigger powers, they all become tiny. So all that really matters is sine x equals x. So for instance, just another example. So let's say that x was, I don't know, well, just again, 1 over 10. So this is a 10th, but this is like 1,000th over 6. So this would be 1 over 6,000. And then this would be like 1 over 100,000 is the x 5th part. And then 5 factorial is 5 times 4 times 3 times 2, which, as we all know, is 60. he said confidently. 5 times 4 is 20, times 3 is 60, times 2 is 120. So if it's a tenth, you've got 1 over 100,000 here, and then you've got 1 over 120 here, so it's going to be about 1 over 10 million. So these things get tiny very quickly. So sine x, we can just say is x. Cos x, I mean, if x was super tiny, we could say it's 1, because it does approach 1. But we're going to be a bit more precise than that. We're going to say it's minus x squared over 2 factorial. 2 factorial is 2. I hope you like this. Please do subscribe and hit the notification bell. I'd love to hear your ideas, and most of all, I hope you enjoy your mathematics.